hopefully everybody can see my screen. Okay, I can hear and see me clearly. If not, please do let me know. Okay, so again, anybody that was in my earlier one, this is just going to give you a bit of an overview of what to expect in our financing webinars. So this is really we do other financing webinars. So we do one on cash flow, and we do one on finance and bookkeeping. Okay, we also do one on self-assessment tax returns as well. Okay, but for this webinar here, an overview, we're just going to be concentrating on the finance and bookkeeping one and the cash flow forecast one. So I've divided that into sort of two. So again, anybody that attended my earlier session, we do a bit of housekeeping. Both of these webinars, finance and bookkeeping and cash flow for your business, are CPD sort of certified. Again, we just sort of set the tone. Okay, how long the webinar is. 2 hours, 3 hours, short 10-minute break on the 45 or 50-minute mark, depending on how we get along. And again, we also do introductions to the host, to Wenta, and just to tell you a bit about ourselves then. Okay, so the first one that we're going to be concentrating on is the finance and bookkeeping one. Okay, so again, this one is actually scheduled for sort of 3 hours when you do come to attend it. Okay, this one again, just give you an overview about what we sort of cover. Okay, so on the first part of the finance and bookkeeping webinar, we cover, and there's a bit of overlap between our other ones as well. Okay, we talk about the sole trader business structure and then partnership structure. Okay, but anybody attended the early one, how to set up a small business? Okay, on this part, when we do talk about sole trader and partnership, we focus more about on the bookkeeping side of things, okay, about the finance side of things. Okay, what you need to take into consideration, while also giving you a bit of pros and cons. We also talk a bit more in detail about the tax and filing sort of deadlines. And we also look at that business structure for a limited company. Again, give you a bit of overview what it is, pros and cons of what it is, but focusing on more on the finance and bookkeeping side, what you need to take into consideration regardless of what business structure that you are. Okay, and we also further emphasize, okay, the importance of record and good bookkeeping. Okay, so we have a few sort of ahead. Okay, so there is a list, just to tell you a bit about it now. Okay, there is a list, okay, on the government sort of website, a list of software packages, okay, that you could potentially be using. Okay, it's actually going to be made compulsory in the next year or so, I believe. Okay, I think next year. If you are VAT registered, you have to be using one of these bookkeeping packages. So you can look at that website on the government website, have a look at the bookkeeping packages that you sort of like, and hopefully sign up for one of them there. Okay, so we talk a bit more in depth about that. Okay. Again, just to give you some examples of the slides within the webinar. So this slide, again, anybody that attended my earlier one, we use exactly the same slide, but we go into a bit more detail about the deadlines. Okay, when you need to pay tax, when you need to submit your self-assessment tax return, when your start date for your business is, when your year-end date is, and how it coincides with the UK sort of tax year. Okay, so again, we're going into a bit more further detail about this, but focusing more on these the bookkeeping, the finance side of it. Okay, this is another slide. Okay, so we talk a bit more about bookkeeping, about accounts, the importance of it, why we sort of do it. We go into a bit more details about making tax digital there. Okay, and we talk about the tools that you could use in order to record all your income, all your expenses, ins and outs, for example. Again, this is just an overview. We go into a lot more detail during the webinar. Okay, so again, another sort of slide, what needs to be recorded? Just quickly, everything needs to be recorded. Every ins and outs of your business, inflows, outflows of your business. You need to keep pre-trading expenses. You need to keep your invoices, your receipts, your bank statements, your cash books there. Again, we're just emphasizing that. And we also give you an example of what your possible cash book could look like. Okay, so again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. On the left-hand side, that is the inflows for your business. Okay, on the right-hand side there, outflows for your business then, and possible ways you could sort of set it up. There is sort of not a right or wrong, as long as it sort of makes sense to yourself and you're recording that important information. So again, just some samples of these slides, what you could potentially be using when it comes to your sales ledger, when it comes to your sort of purchase ledger, just give you again a bit of guidance of how to sort of do it. And Okay. So normally that concludes sort of the first part of the finance and bookkeeping webinar. Again, after 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 10-minute break, then we delve into the middle part of the webinar. And on the middle part of the webinar, we talk about cash flow and profit and loss. Okay. Anybody that is going to be attending our business planning one, okay, we actually cover cash flow and profit and loss forecasting in that webinar. But in this one, we go into a bit of an overview, a bit more in sort of in detail there. Okay, so there might be a bit of overlap between some of the webinars that you do attend. Okay, so in the middle part, we talk about what is the profit and loss statement and how that differs from a forecast. We talk about the basics of what a cash flow is and what a cash flow forecast is, what the differences are between the two. Okay, we talk about allowable business expenditure for your business. Again, we go into a bit more detail about invoices, the layout, what should you be recording, what details should be on it and there. Okay, we also talk about how to raise finance. Okay, and we also give you some examples. Okay, so here on this next few slides, again, just some samples, examples of the slides within the webinar. So this is the cash flow forecast example that we go over during the webinar. So we talk you through the general layouts, discuss some trends, what to look out for, what to do, what not to do, for example. Okay, and again, just give you a bit of confidence. Okay, and we also give you the templates for these as well. So at the end of the webinar, once you've attended it, okay, you get a copy of the slides, you get the templates, and you get a link to recording, as with all of our webinars here. Okay, so this is the profit and loss forecast example that we used during the webinar. This is the cash flow forecast example that we used in the webinar. Again, to give you an overview of it, what to look out for, the layout of it, okay, little things that you cannot do, and what you need to take into consideration once you've belaying a cash flow forecast. Okay. Whoops, sorry. Another example when we talk about business expenditure, okay, what is allowable, what isn't allowable, and we go over some sort of special rules there. Again, same slide when we talk about sort of raising and finance. Okay, here we'll go through each point again, but also give you a bit of food for thought. So we talk about things such as startup loans company. We talk about visiting your local council website. We talk about maybe going to, if it's suitable for yourself, Arts Council, National Lottery funding, Green Grant, Innovate UK. Again, we sort of, in a sense, of signposts. It's down to you to go out, do the research, and see if it's valid for you and your business. Okay. So again, that concludes sort of the second part of the webinar when we talk about finance and bookkeeping. Now we go into the last part of it. Okay. So in this last part of the webinar, we talk about VAT, we talk about national insurance, NIC. We talk about personal and business tax. This is where we actually get down a little bit into the nitty-gritty of things. Okay, again, just instilling a bit of confidence, giving you a bit of food for thought, giving you a bit of guidance on these subjects. So again, just some slides, examples of some slides within the webinar. So this is the income tax webinar. Income tax slide that we talk. We talk about each of those sort of roles, what to take into consideration, and just expand on it a bit more. The same with the national insurance. Again, this is the example of the slide. We do concentrate on class 2 and 4 because that is for the sort of self-employed there. Just go into a bit more detail about the figures. Same with this one. Okay, this is where we talk about tax if you're a limited company, when we talk about dividends. Okay, basic rate, higher rate, and additional. We'll just talk a bit more about it, okay, about each sort of point. Okay, we also provide an example, give you a bit of breakdown, okay, of what all the figures sort of mean. Give you an example, okay. So when you come to do it, okay, you'll know sort of exactly what to do there. So it's not such a big shock to you. So that is what the finance and bookkeeping webinar entails from us. Okay. The other financial or finance webinar that we do is we actually have a cash flow forecast webinar that we focus on, and that's for about 3 hours, 2.5 hours long as well. Okay, so it's divided into sort of 3 parts. Part 1, we go into a lot more detail. We spend a bit more time, okay, in talking about cash flow forecasting, example of the cash flow forecast, we talk about capital expenditure, what it is, why you need to sort of do it if affordable to your business. We talk a bit more about working capital, the importance of it, what you should be aiming for. We talk about sales and cash flow forecasting. We talk about expenditure and cash payment forecasting, how to go about doing it, what to take into consideration, and how to address any cash flow gaps, okay, compared to your actual and sort of your budgeted figures there. So that's what we cover in sort of part one of the cash flow forecast webinar. Okay, again, just some examples. Okay, this is a different example that we use that you saw differently from our other webinar, finance and bookkeeping. Again, go into a lot more detail. Okay, we talk about the trends, what to take into consideration, why you should be putting these numbers, what do all of these numbers mean, why have we put these figures in particular places then. Okay, so again, we're going into a lot more detail. Again, this is the sales and cash receipts forecasting slide that we have within the webinar. We go for each point. Okay, each of those points we spend a good couple of minutes just explaining each point, and again what you should be taking into consideration. Okay, so then that we go into the second part of the webinar. Okay, and we cover all of these points there. Timely financial reporting, managing reduction in your overheads. We talk about inventory, stock management. We talk about debtors list. We talk about a creditors list as well. Okay, who owes you money, who you owe money sort of to. Again, what to take into consideration. Okay, so again, just some samples of the slides within the webinar. Okay, so this is the managed debt, managed debtors list. Again, go for each of these points. Okay, provide you with some examples, what to look out for, what to take into consideration. We talk about invoice and factoring. We talk about discounting there. Okay, same, but this is the creditors list. Okay, again, go for each point, give you that bit of sort of guidance. Okay, so then we can sort of, in the last part of the webinar, we talk about these subject areas, a bit of support for yourself, where to go if you need to contact HMRC there. Okay, so we talk about alternative revenue streams, how to increase sales. We talk about the importance of maintaining and meeting your tax obligations. We talk about different financing options. Okay, the important relationship that you have with HMRC. Okay, and give you a bit of pointers how to deal with your bank. Again, what to take into consideration. Okay, so again, just some samples of some slides within the webinar. Okay, this is the assessing financing option slide. Okay, we'll go for each of these points. Okay, provide a bit more sort of details. Okay, and then you're welcome to ask any questions, any sort of queries. Okay, again, some pointers on how to deal with your bank. Okay, what to take into consideration in there. Okay, how to approach them, how to begin the conversation. Okay. And what we also cover in this in the cash flow forecast webinar is we give you links to other webinars. Okay, give you some suggestions. Okay, you've attended this webinar. Here are some other webinars that go hand in hand with this. For example, our business planning one. We also talk about Action Zero. Okay, we also talk about signposting to other sources of finance. We can actually go over a pitch deck if you want. Okay, we won't create it for you, but we can offer you suggestions. Okay, you'll provide it to us. We will say, you know, have you taken this into consideration? Have you sort of done that? What do you think of this? And sort of share our experience with you. Okay, and again, we give you other resources, templates, links, just to sort of help you get started there. Okay, so again, we wrap up. Okay, summarizing what we've just sort of learned. Okay, provide you some contact details for Wentar, for other organizations. We give you an opportunity to provide feedback. We give you an opportunity to ask questions, ask queries during the webinar or at the end of the webinar as well. Okay. So again, all the webinars that we do, okay, anyone again attended the morning session, it is just a bit of startup information, okay, a bit of confidence building, okay, providing you with those tools, those links, those templates, signposting, having that conversation, start putting in some figures down in the templates, okay, and just giving it a go, getting started. And again, always we can offer suggestions, but it's down to you as the individual to go out and sort of do it. Okay, give it a go, tackle it. Okay, any questions, any queries, please come back to us. Book in that free session with that business advisor. there. Okay. Amount of people that I've worked with, I don't know how to fill in a cash flow forecast. I don't know how to do this. Okay. Again, we've had that little conversation, provided with them with the templates. They've attended our webinars. They've given me a fairly good cash flow forecast, a fairly good attempt. Okay. And there'll be different versions of it. Okay? And there'll be suggestions sort of made there. But that's pretty much what the financing webinars that we do and what it covers. Okay. So thank you, everybody.